Hello everyone, welcome to History and Culture. You've probably heard the saying, don't let poverty limit your imagination. But today, let me tell you about a woman who shattered every social ceiling and rose from nothing to rule an empire. Her name became the symbol of a dynasty's final glory, a name synonymous with absolute power and unimaginable luxury, Empress Dowager Cixi. She was never crowned empress, yet 3 emperors bowed to her will. She never claimed the throne, but ruled the Qing dynasty for nearly half a century. Her background, her political tactics, her lifestyle, were all so extravagant, you'd question whether she was even living on the same planet as the rest of us. Let's rewind to the year 1856. Inside Beijing's Forbidden City, lights blazed late into the night at Chushu Palace. A concubine of relatively low rank was in labor. This birth shook the entire palace. Imperial doctors, palace maids, eunuchs, everyone was mobilized. Even Emperor Xianfeng himself came to stand watch, an extremely rare event in palace history. Why? Because this concubine, though ranked only as a pin, 5th rank, carried something priceless, a male heir. Her name was Pin. And she would one day make every man in the empire bow at her feet. At that point, Emperor Xianfeng had reigned for years without producing a son. Rumors swirled in the palace that he might be impotent. So when Pin became pregnant, it was like rain after a long drought. She gave birth to a boy named Zichuan, later known as Emperor Tongji. From that moment, her fate changed forever. Cixi's birth name was Yongle. That surname carried a chilling curse in Manchu history. Long before the Qing dynasty was founded, the Yongle clan had once allied with, and later betrayed, Nurhaci, the dynasty's founder. In retaliation, the entire clan was slaughtered. Before dying, the clan leader uttered a curse, even if only one Yongle woman survives, she will bring your empire to ruin. Centuries later, that prophecy echoed through history, fulfilled by none other than Cixi herself. Once she became the emperor's son's mother, her rise was meteoric. She ascended from lowly consort to noble consort, eventually reaching the rare title of Empress Dowager, ruling alongside Empress Dowager Cixi. After Emperor Xianfeng's death, the 6-year-old Tongji was enthroned, and both dowagers jointly held the reins of power, at least in name. In truth, Cixi was the mastermind behind the curtain. None of this happened by accident. Cixi was never meant to live in obscurity. She was sharp, calculating, and adapted quickly to the treacherous life of the inner court. Her most famous, and daring, political move was the Xinyo coup. Before his death, Emperor Xianfeng appointed 8 senior officials to act as regents for the young emperor. But Cixi saw this as a threat. If these 8 men controlled the court, she'd be left with no power. So she conspired with Empress Dowager Cixi and Prince Gong, Isan. Pretending to organize an early funeral for the late emperor, she had the 8 regents escort the imperial coffin out of Beijing, while she stayed behind to quietly mobilize troops. When the 8 officials returned, she arrested them in one swift blow. Some were executed, others exiled. The coup succeeded. At just 27 years old, Cixi became the de facto ruler of the Qing Empire. In a male-dominated imperial system, this was nothing short of a miracle. But power alone wasn't enough for her. She craved glory and luxury. Though she never claimed the imperial title, she demanded everyone address her as Lao Foyi, Old Buddha, a term traditionally reserved only for emperors. The fact that she claimed it for herself shows just how high she rose. She resided in Chushu Palace, which was completely renovated for her 50th birthday. Southern hardwoods, glazed tiles, golden dragons, jade phoenixes, mythological beasts, the finest craftsmen in the empire were summoned under the emperor's own decree to refit her residence. The palace had 5 key chambers: her sleeping quarters, dressing room, tea room, Buddhist prayer hall, and reception hall. Every corner was filled with symbols of imperial supremacy. Her lifestyle was a living manual of royal extravagance. Even the air she breathed had to be sweet and fragrant. She disliked artificial perfumes, so palace maids were ordered to place freshly cut fruit in every room daily, just so she could enjoy their natural aroma. According to Qing court records, during the Guangxu reign alone, she used over 150,000 apples, 110,000 autumn pears, and more than 70,000 sugar pears, all not for eating, but for scented air. And if you thought that was over the top, wait until you hear how she went to the bathroom. While most people had porcelain chamber pots, hers was carved from pure sandalwood, inlaid with images of mythical beasts and geckos. It was lined with rare scented wood powder, completely odorless. Even more astonishing, her chamber pot had to be carried on a eunuch's head. And if anyone saw it being transported, they had to kneel and pay respects to the Empress Dowager's imperial waist. Yes, she really did out-emperor the emperor. Cixi's life defied belief. Rising from an obscure consort to become the most powerful woman in China, she relied not on noble birth but on wit and boldness. Her lavish lifestyle wasn't mere indulgence, it was empire-wide pageantry, transforming national resources into her personal decorations. And this was only the beginning. In the next part, we'll look at how she spent her later years living in a realm beyond imagination. Her food, her makeup, her daily rituals, they'll make you wonder, was this even a human life? After taking control of the Qing court, Empress Dowager Cixi lived a life more lavish than any emperor. But what truly left people speechless wasn't just her political cunning, it was how she turned eating into a national spectacle, a grand theater of imperial dominance. Think about this: today, when we treat ourselves to a fancy meal, we might have 3 dishes and a soup and feel like royalty. Even celebrities throwing extravagant banquets rarely go beyond a dozen courses. But Cixi? For one meal, she demanded 108 dishes. That's right, 108, served across 5 tables, including hot dishes, cold platters, desserts, fruits, and regional tributes. Every meal was like a royal buffet performed daily with ritualistic precision. And no, she didn't eat everything. In fact, she rarely took more than a few bites from any dish. So why go through the trouble? Because for Cixi, eating was never about satisfying hunger, it was about projecting power. As the mother of the nation, she embodied the empire's divine mandate. Every bite she took declared, "The Empress Dowager is here. The mandate of heaven endures." Preparing her 3 daily meals required a rotating team of over a dozen head chefs and dozens of assistants. Each had a specialty: some were experts in Beijing cuisine, others mastered delicate southern dishes, Manchuan fusion meals, and several were trained to create Western desserts like milk custard and cheese puddings. In her later years, Cixi developed a taste for Western, exotic flavors. She imported candies from Germany, butter from Russia, and even had one of the earliest refrigerators in China, just to keep her European delicacies fresh. She had a strict list of imperial-only ingredients. For example, chicken. Only 2 types, Huang chicken from Hubei and mountain-raised fowl from Hunan, slaughtered at dawn, meat killed later than 3 hours before serving was discarded. Fish. Only shad from West Lake in Hangzhou and white eel from Suzhou River, and they had to be live-killed and cooked immediately. The logistics behind these meals were staggering. The Imperial Household Department mobilized horses, boats, and men for emergency deliveries under imperial order, just so a fish could travel thousands of miles to rest in her mouth for 2 minutes. But the crown jewels of her cuisine? Bird's nest and sea cucumber. Cixi adored them. Every morning, she had bird's nest porridge. 4 times a week, abalone stew with sea cucumber. Records from the Imperial kitchen show she consumed over 800 taels of premium bird's nest per year, not including the portions she gifted to nobles and consorts. At one point, nearly the entire country's supply of top-grade bird's nest was monopolized by the Forbidden City, just for one woman. Now you might think, okay, expensive ingredients, billionaires today can eat that too. But what sets her apart is the ritual behind every bite. Take her breakfast. It didn't start at 7 a.m. Preparations began at 3 a.m., and by 5 a.m., she had to be seated. The meal started with 4 appetizers, shredded chicken rolls, silver thread buns, osmanthus cakes, and julienne vegetable wraps, just to whet her appetite. Then came 16 main dishes, arranged by temperature, color, and direction. A eunuch would chant the names of the dishes in sequence. Other attendants rotated plates, served tea, and replaced dishes in total silence. The entire process took over an hour. And after the meal? Toothbrushing. Cixi's toothbrush was made with a gold handle and boar bristles. Her toothpaste? A custom blend of peppermint, clove, honey, and rose essence. Even her mouthwash was artisan, infused with boiled ginkgo, chrysanthemum, and sandalwood. It was less dental hygiene, more a sip of luxury skin care. Her drinking water? Never from palace wells. It had to be fresh spring water from Jade Spring Hill, transported daily in oxhide containers, filtered through 3 layers of white silk before boiling. Tea leaves were selectively chosen, only shomei and biluakun, and adjusted by season, floral teas in summer, bitter infusions in autumn, rich brews in winter. Nothing was random, everything had meaning. After each meal, a flavor report was compiled. Chefs recorded which dishes she favored, which ones she barely touched. Eunuchs quietly noted her expressions, did she frown or smile, and the next day's menu was adjusted accordingly. Not even emperors enjoyed such personalized culinary service. Of course, this obsessive attention to dining wasn't just for personal pleasure. For Cixi, food was politics. Her annual birthday banquet became a nationwide culinary showcase. Regional officials were required to send their finest tribute ingredients, hami melons from Xinjiang, matsutake mushrooms from Yunnan, bird's nest from Guangdong, lychees from Fujian. Even foreign envoys from Korea and Vietnam presented her with caviar and deer antler wine. These tributes weren't even served, they were stored as her personal stash. Her birthday became a national loyalty test. The more you offered, the more loyal you seemed. Send too little or too late. You were seen as defying the mandate of heaven. And speaking of legendary food stories, one of the most famous involves chocolate. Once, a French envoy visited the Forbidden City and gifted her a Western-style food box filled with chocolates and cream pastries. At first, Cixi mistook them for scented soaps and had eunuchs slice them into decorative bars for her dressing room. It wasn't until the translator explained their true nature that she realized, wait, these are edible? From that moment, she was hooked. She ordered the creation of a Western Dessert Bureau in the palace. Baking molds were imported from Paris. Believe it or not, by 1900, the scent of fresh cake was wafting through the Forbidden City, something that felt like pure sorcery to the average Chinese citizen. This wasn't an occasional treat. This was her daily rhythm. For over 30 years, even as the Qing treasury ran dry and the people suffered, Cixi's imperial food budget never shrank. A single summer in the summer palace cost hundreds of thousands of taels of silver, just for her meals, not counting the manpower or transport. Cixi transformed dining into a royal philosophy. Through food, she declared her power, built her legend, and enforced her authority. In her eyes, the people could starve, but she must never appear humble. This mindset came to define her era, dazzling on the surface, hollow within. And this was only the culinary chapter of her extravagance. You haven't yet seen how she dressed, how she did her makeup, how she washed her face. You won't believe how many outfits she changed into each day, or how many gold-laced powder puffs she used. Even her bath routine. A royal ball in itself. Her vanity table was the empire's final line of defense. If Empress Dowager Cixi turned dining into a grand ritual, then her daily beauty routine was nothing short of a royal opera. Believe it or not, her cosmetic expenses far outpaced even her extravagant meals. While many imagine her as a frail, aging dowager in her later years, historical records paint a completely different picture. At the age of 80, Cixi still demanded a perfectly polished appearance every single day. Her eyebrows were trimmed twice daily, she washed her face with 3 different kinds of water, used 10 face towels a day, and her mirrors were so meticulously maintained they were replaced every 2 hours. This obsession with her appearance wasn't just vanity, it was her way of projecting authority. Some described her dressing table as a mini palace. That wasn't a metaphor, it was literal. Her vanity spanned over 2 meters, layered with 3 tiers and 9 drawers, decorated with incense burners and inlaid with Manchu jade, coral, and amber. Every morning, after settling into her Yongle wood armchair, a team of over a dozen maids and eunuchs would begin what can only be described as a beauty operation. If you're imagining a few women helping her brush her brows and apply lipstick, think again. This was a half-day ceremony, beginning at dawn and ending near noon. First came the cleansing ritual. The water had to be spring water boiled with early bloom roses, cooled to body temperature, and infused with 3 drops of Japanese linden flower oil. A finely embroidered silk cloth was used to gently wipe her face, followed by a delicate application of what we might now call skin care, but hers was no ordinary cream. It was an imperial blend of musk, sandalwood, cordyceps, and buffalo horn resin, each jar costing dozens of taels of silver. She went through over 100 jars a year. The scent? Not flowery, not sweet. It was the scent of power. Then came the makeup. Her foundation was made from crushed pearls, silver powder, and egg whites, so thin it was nearly invisible, yet it gave her aged face a smooth, luminous glow. Her eyebrows weren't drawn, but implanted. Thin black hairs were delicately pasted onto her brow bones, replaced every 3 days. Her lips were tinted with a custom-made cinnabar balm, blended from mercury sulfide, saffron, and ginseng extract. After each application, her attendants used golden-threaded cloth to gently clean her mouth corners to prevent any signs of aging. And her hair? That was a daily battle. Cixi cherished her hair almost more than anything. She applied 3 types of aromatic oils daily and dyed it jet black once a month. Her iconic Manchu headdress, weighing 5 or 6 pounds, had to be secured by 2 eunuchs and adorned with over 100 ornaments, pearl pins, golden phoenixes, emerald blossoms. Imagine an elderly woman, every day, walking with poise while carrying a hairstyle heavier than a turkey. That wasn't just the result of good health, it was the entire empire holding up her image. All of this, just to look not old. Cixi was terrified of aging and death. No one in the palace was allowed to mention words like death, illness, yellow, or gray. She once said, "As long as I look healthy, the nation remains stable." To her, her face was the feng shui map of the entire empire. This obsession with eternal youth extended to her wardrobe. Her closet wasn't a closet, it was several chambers, categorized by season, occasion, and even mood. Her favorite colors were imperial yellow and sapphire blue, symbols of heaven's mandate. Every outfit was embroidered with hundreds of bats, longevity characters, or golden dragons. By her later years, it said she owned over 100 dragon robes, 300 pairs of embroidered shoes, and dozens of cloaks. A single pair of shoes used 6 layers of silk, thousands of hand stitches, and concealed sachets to prevent bugs. Despite having tiny bound feet, her shoes had thick soles, not just for warmth, but to stand higher and see further. She firmly believed, if my feet are steady, the empire is steady. And her obsession with jewelry? It bordered on madness. According to palace records, every time she appeared in court or went on inspection, she wore over 100 pieces of jewelry, totaling more than 30 pounds in weight. She had a legendary pearl necklace strung with 108 natural Eastern pearls, each the size of a dove's egg, milky white and perfectly round. It was the crown jewel of the Qing imperial treasury. She wore it only a handful of times while alive but instructed that it be placed in her coffin when she died, to accompany her into the afterlife. And when it came time for her death, Cixi made sure to leave with the same flair she lived with. In 1908, already in her 70s, her health took a turn. But even in her final days, she insisted on being fully made up, face painted, hair styled, robes changed. On her deathbed, she instructed the eunuchs to dress her, style her hair, and prepare her as if for a grand ceremony. She would not meet death in weakness, she would meet it with elegance. Her body was placed in Shogong, the palace of longevity, dressed in 3 layers of dragon robes, covered with golden silk blankets. In her mouth were pearls and jade, in her hands, a jade rui, on her feet, golden thread lotus shoes. Her coffin was carved from millennia-old camphor wood, wrapped in gold brocade, and lined with pearls, gold, and gemstones. The burial goods alone were worth millions of taels of silver, equivalent to billions in today's currency. Her funeral lasted 49 days, involved tens of thousands of participants, and practically brought Beijing to a standstill. Her ceremonial cart, tomb guards, and processional entourage stretched for miles, consuming the last drops of the Qing Empire's wealth. It wasn't just a funeral, it was a state funeral, the final act of the dynasty, performed for a woman who had single-handedly become a myth. But what cemented Cixi's place in legend were the strange events after her death. Some say that on the day she was buried, the skies above Beijing turned dark with swirling clouds, and black crows flew alongside rainbows. Locals claimed to hear music and women's voices near her tomb at night, as if she had never truly left. Most chilling of all, when the warlord's son Undying looted her tomb in the Republican era, he reported that her face had not decayed. Her skin was soft, her lips retained color, her hair unbroken. Though later scholars cast doubt on these claims, none have been definitively disproven. Even in death, Empress Dowager Cixi became an eternal dressing room. She spent her life building a visual empire of beauty, luxury, and dominance, and made sure her corpse terrified even the ghosts. She wasn't just a woman, she was a legend woven from national wealth, religious belief, and political fear. From a lowly palace girl to the woman who steered a collapsing dynasty, Cixi turned the Qing Empire's treasure, labor, and will into her own private universe. In a time caught between feudalism and modernity, she was both the last empress of an old world and a mystery that modern times still can't fully unravel. Her story proves one thing: sometimes, a single person can be so extravagant, so relentless, that history bends around them. And her half-century of makeup, clothing, and dining wasn't just vanity, it was the final spectacle of a dying empire. Beneath the brilliance, there was sorrow. Behind the gold, a nation fading into twilight. Her life may be gone, but like the rose-scented bomb she adored, Cixi's name lingers, impossible to erase, and never to fade. This is History and Culture Channel. Like and subscribe are the biggest help and support for us. Thank you everyone. See you next time.